Welcome to all of you. And actually, I want to directly start with this video with me, Veerle. A very interesting video, I hope. Um, but I don't want you to see me. I'm in working mode here. And I wanted to talk about, and I hope I am sharing this now. Is sharing a window? Yes. No, 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 no. Yeah, I hope I'm sharing this screen here because I wanted to talk about Venus retrograde. And I really want to talk about, look how I wrote this. It's like a 6-year-old. Anyway, um, I want to talk about Venus retrograde in a very serious way because I think I have some serious stuff here to share with you. But I also want to make it a bit more fun here. And the Venus is now transiting in Aries from my ascendant sign in the 5th house, and I really sense it in a very good way of doing, fun stuff, childish stuff, so to speak, and things that I haven't been doing for a long time. Anyway, it's not about me here; it's about the Venus retrograde. And let's get started with explaining this because thank you so much for all your comments of all of you who saw the eclipse video, because I wanted to break through some false interpretations of what the eclipses were about. And the same with Venus. And the Venus retrograde, when I started to understand them, was really when I did readings. So a couple of years ago, when I started to do readings full time, I really saw the importance of the Venus retrograde. And let's share this information with you. First of all, we are now amongst between eclipses, so it's supposed to be very calm now, but it isn't, because we still need to go through that Piscean eclipse, which for all of us will be a bit of a letting go. And it's close to Neptune, so we don't really know what it's all about yet. But after that goes the Venus retrograde. So this Venus retrograde is a lot about standing still, about love. It's God that is saying to us, with the language of astrology, that is saying to us, look a bit deeper on Venus. Look a bit deeper about Venus-related subjects in your life. Stand still, reassess, reevaluate. So when Venus goes direct, so Venus is going to go retrograde around the 4th of March and direct again around around the 16th of April. So in that period of time, like whole March actually, is about that standing still around Venus issues. And very shortly, I'm going to say some things when you have your Venus in your 1st house, 2nd house, and so on. Oh, I can't even draw a circle, you see? I can't even draw this astrological thing, but we'll solve that. Most importantly, when there is a Venus retrograde, it's like with the Mercury retrograde. It's not there to annoy us. It's actually to become to become better. For instance, with Mercury, when Mercury goes retrograde, like here in the 3rd house, Veerle, you see how interesting this is, having fun with some very serious subjects. So let's say you have Mercury on your 3rd house here. That would mean that before actually the purpose of this is that we want to have a better Mercury resolvement of some problems. We want to go up a level, so to speak, with the Mercury. When it goes into your 3rd house, it's very much about communication. So like internet, your computer, and so on. So what's going to happen when Mercury goes retrograde? It's going to increase the problems. So it's going to be very much in your face, so you can solve it. Like for instance, you have an old computer, but you say, "Oh yeah, I'll buy one in a year." or whatever. But then Mercury goes retrograde and it really focuses on the problem, so you can solve it. So you can buy that new computer, and you can or you can put some photos on your stick or whatever. The same with a Venus retrograde. Venus retrogrades happen for a good reason. It wants us to stand still. Even in the fiery Aries, because this is happening in the fiery sign of Aries, so the passionate sign of Aries, but it wants us to be, so normally Venus in Aries is very outwardly, but it's going to retrograde in this sign, so it's going more inwards. And what is Venus all about? So Venus is the ruler of, hang on there, look, it's the ruler of of Libra. I'm really having fun here. Libra, and it's also the ruler of Taurus. So Taurus, you know, it's definitely not really looking like Taurus, but bear with me. So the Venus rules these two signs. So Venus is not all about relationships and love and how we equal balanced relationships. So what do I mean by that? A good relationship is where you get the best out of each other, where you give and you take in the same amount. And the Taurus has more, which is more related. So this is related to the 7th house. Taurus is more related to the 2nd house, which is worth. So what is worth for you? What do you think? So for not everyone, this will have to do with love. For a lot of people, it will have to do with, what do I value? What is not valuable? Where do I want to spend time, or towards what? What is my passion? Because it's of course an Aries, so it will be a lot about the fire feeling of Venus as well. So what is my passion and what is my value? So these two are going to everyone. So everyone will have that Venus somewhere, and will reevaluate what they love. Maybe it is a person, maybe it is about a person, especially when you have this in social houses. I'll talk about that in a minute. But for a lot of people, it will go about value of what do I think is important, what not, and where don't am I not in balance with this value. So I want to break a bit through this fear that a lot of people have when it goes about Venus retrograde. Am I going to lose love? Is a terrible ex going to return? All of these things. Again, astrology is tailor-made. When you look at the monthly horoscope, for example, it might give you actually the wrong information because it's not tailor-made on your personal horoscope. So be cautious again when you're doing that, because it's going to put some thoughts in your mind that maybe are false. So let's break this down. Why do we have a Venus retrograde going on? So it's obvious that we are all going through a period of time where we are going to relate better after this retrograde. So when it starts to go direct around the middle of April, we will all go up a level, for better or for worse, you know, with experiences that were a bit worse or were a bit positive or negative. We will go up a level with relating better to people and with self-worth and worth of other people. For instance, it can have nothing to do with people at all. I had a client the other day, she was a Pisces rising, so her ascendant was Pisces. And this Venus retrograde was her 2nd house. So first you have Pisces, then you have Aries. So the Venus retro was going to fall into her 2nd house. It is already in there. We're already in the shadow period of the Venus retrograde. So we already feel that love issues or value issues are going to come, are going to be a bit exaggerated in our face. So we deal with it instead of putting them on the back burner. We'll deal with it. Or we have to, it's so much in our face. And she, for her, it's going to be a very positive one, because to the day, you could very easily predict that she, Venus rules her 8th house, the money of other people or money of insurances, taxes, and so on. And on the date when Venus goes direct, she will receive an amount of money because she's 65, and she will receive quite a huge amount of money because of a policy, or an insurance policy of where she worked for a very long time. And she, you know, the typical Piscean energy, I mean, the typical Piscean is someone who's really not interested in money, but she didn't even was aware of it, that this big amount of money was going to come her way. And that's the Venus retrograde. Money comes back to her. And that's, of course, I know this is a very positive story about the Venus retrograde. Not all will be so positive. And on the, you know, you could say a lower layer of this world that we are living in. Because on a lower layer, it can have to do with money as well. On a deeper level, it has to do, as I said, with our worth and with how we relate to others. So it doesn't have, first of all, it doesn't have necessarily have to do with love. But for a lot of us, it will have to do what we do love and what we find interesting. So look at your context and look at in which house this Venus is going retrograde. Now, people who will have, so certain people will feel this more than others, this Venus retrograde. So people who really are going to feel it, hang on here. People who are really, really going to feel this Venus retrograde, they are the people who've got personal planets between these degrees. So in other words, if you have, because the Venus retrograde goes back into Pisces as well. So this is the beginning point, and this is the end point where the Venus is retrograding, and so on. So if you've got a personal planet, let's say an ascendant, or the sun, or the moon, or Venus, or Mars, even Mercury, if you've got that in Pisces between 26 degrees, so 26 degrees of Pisces, 27 degrees of Pisces, and so on, up until 13 degrees of Aries, you will feel it the most. You will be someone who's going through life changes almost when it comes to these two interpretations of Venus, which is love, relating, and value. So and of course, people with Venus in Pisces and Venus in Aries will feel it also very, very much. But these are very much into the picture. So go and have a look at where that is happening in your chart. Of course, when this is happening, let's start with the love houses, you know, the 7th house, but also other relational houses is like the 3rd house. The 3rd house is also a house of communication, house of siblings. So when you're having this Venus retro in the 3rd house, in the 7th house, I know these 3rd, 4th, the 5th, I know these are not fitting, but just pretend that this is a correct circle. The 5th house, the house of love, also social house, the 5th house, the 7th house, the 11th house, the house of friends, the house of people that we connect with, maybe also the 9th house. The 9th house could be people from that we connect with on a distance. So and of course also the 1st house, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, the social houses. So when you have your Venus in one of these social houses, again, does it mean a relationship will end, or no, not necessarily? Let's talk about situation number 1, when you have, for instance, a fairly good relationship. So you're having a fairly good, whether it is a relationship that you just started, like in the 5th house, you know, here is where relationships start, the house of romance. Or you have an existing relationship and Venus goes to your 7th house, or you have, or this is about maybe a friendship and it goes through your 11th house, or maybe this relates to a sibling and it goes through your 3rd house. In all of those cases, what is the now we are still already in the shadow period, but ask yourself, how is my connection with a certain point, with a certain person, that will be for you now a bit more important? Because as I said, when Venus is retrograde, we cannot just say, oh, I'm not going to deal with this issue here, because issues are going to be, even when you have good relationships with these people, issues are going to come to the fore, in your face, so to speak, because, and it can be minor problems, big problems, it doesn't matter. But when you already have a good connection with these people, you absolutely don't have to fear for the breakup or anything. What it probably will be is that there is an issue that needs to be resolved here. So in the third house, it could be a sibling. So when Venus goes retrograde in that house, it could mean like there is an issue between you and a sibling, and you need to stand still and try to sort it out. Basically, that's it. It's not that complex. But you will only see things going forwards as from the 16th of April, because then, so the time before that, so the time between now and the 16th of April, you have the time to reflect. You have the time of, and certainly also eclipses, can't put the L here. The eclipses will make sure that some events happen so that you can stand still and reevaluate. So maybe there's a problem with the sibling, you sort it out, and then you go up a level. Then you realize it's even better to connect. It deepens, because when Venus is retrograde, Venus is closest to the Earth, so it's an opportunity to deepen your relationships, right? Now let's say it's happening in your 7th house. It definitely is relationships, and let's say that you have a relationship that is not good, or that has just ended, for instance. But then this can be more on a psychological level. Like, for instance, when the Venus stops and goes retrograde, you reevaluate the relationship, and you say, and you reevaluate also your worth versus their worth. You will see that, for instance, you have given too much in that relationship, and you're standing still and reflecting about it, and you say, this is not good. This is, I like every other person, I deserve a relationship where there's a balance between giving and taking. Or a relationship just ended because you just took way too much and you didn't give enough. But now is a time that maybe you are in a bit of pain here, but you reevaluate it and you say, okay, I have to do my attitude towards relationship. When on the 16th of April, you may be sure that it will have be changed. So maybe you are saying, okay, in my next one, this relationship, this is a closure, but in my next relationship, my attitude will be different. I will watch out that I won't take too much of other people, or I won't give too much. You see, the same in the 5th house. The 5th house can relate to a child. Maybe you are going to stand still about your connection with your child. Maybe the connection was not good and you try to restore it, or your attitude needs to change about this. Or it could be, this is the house of the heart. It could also be a hobby that, or a passion. It's Venus in Aries is very passionate. So maybe you're thinking about, I want a bit more passion in my life. And I used to dance, for instance, and maybe I'm going to pick up this new hobby. And when it's around this period of time, you're picking up this new hobby, and you are feeling more alive. The 5th house is the house of the muse as well. Feeling alive because of what? Maybe because of a new hobby, or maybe because of a person. Maybe here, with Venus there in the 5th house, maybe you realize, I'm falling in love for a person, and you're standing still, and you re-evaluating that. Maybe you are single and you're saying, I will have to go for that person, because this person gives me a feeling that I'm alive again, and so on and so on, dependent on your personal situation. The same in the 11th house when it's about friends. Maybe again you are going to maybe you are saying reevaluating a friend. This friend has been during the period of the retrograde before the 16th of April. You say a friend is giving me a lot, and this is actually a friend that is more important to me than I thought he or she was, or the opposite. This friend is taking way too much from me. I have to change my attitude. And it always has to do, in a sense, with your self-worth. So, and let's have a look at when it goes into the work area, you know, the 6th house. Venus retrograde in the 6th house or in the 10th house. That could relate to work. Again, when you have a cusp as well, so I said when you have planets here, but also cusps. So when you're having a cusp at 26 degrees of Pisces or a cusp at 13 degrees of Aries, it will become more significant. Even just the cusp of the 2nd house, because that's what these cusps are very, they are like energy lines. So when a planet going 3 times a planet going forwards, then backwards, then forwards again, so 3 times over a cusp, again, it will be more significant for you. So let's say you have here the 10th house here, and Venus is going 3 times over your 10th house or over your 6th house. You're certainly reevaluating your job, certainly. Again, do you put too much energy into this job? Do you really like it, Venus in Aries? Are you passionate about what you're doing? Do you want to keep on doing this this job? And what ignites you? Again, Venus in Aries. Do you want to do this for the next couple of years or not? Or is there something else? Maybe a job that you used to do that you want to go towards again, and that makes you decide to leave a job. So you see how this can relate towards Venus in the 4th house. Venus in the 4th house, family members, your home. Where do you live? Are you still? It may be about a person, about a family member, about a parent, that there is like a re-evaluation. And again, it has to. If you're doing this, just trust that ultimately it's for the best. Ultimately, it's for making our relationship better, our attitude towards love better. So even when there is a bit of pain involved here, it could be the case as well with Venus retrograde in the 4th house, maybe a parent that you seeing through different perspective now, and that makes you decide, look, I'm going to distance myself a little bit from this parent, or again, the other way around. So very interesting times that we are going towards. You know, it's not only the eclipses, we also are in the midst of a Venus retrograde in March, and we also have a Mercury retrograde. So take your time when you are, especially now when we are in the midst of between eclipses, a lot, and an eclipse that is going to be conjunct Neptune. A lot is a bit foggy and a bit unsure and a bit doubtful, but use the doubt to come towards the clarity, and there will be lots of clarity around this date and afterwards. And a last thing I want to mention is about when you have Venus retrograde in the 1st house, and about there was someone who asked me about a cosmetic operation she wanted to do. You know, the 1st house relates to your appearance. Also, when you would have a moon in Aries, for instance, it is often your health. And so I'm going to give you some explanation here why it is good to operate yourself, you know, to have an operation or not during the Venus retrograde. First of all, if you already had some operations, so with the moon in Aries, I'm having this actually in the fourth house, and I did have some operations, and I'm still having them whilst Venus is going retrograde. And the thing why it is for me very well, and I'll give an example why it is not very well to do so in a Venus retrograde, is because I already had some operations in the past. So it will be literally a retrograde on an area in my face, actually, and it will be to fine tune, to make things a bit more beautiful, actually. And if that happens during a Venus retrograde, it's actually very good. It's actually very good, because it is about fine tuning something that you already have done in the past, you know, before the Venus went retrograde. So I hope I made myself clear. If it is about something that you already had some operation on, it's good. When, in other words, the Venus starts to go retrograde on the 4th of March. So it was from the 4th of March. And now people from America will be confused, you know, because this is the 3rd of April. But the 4th of March, and then up until, let's say, the 16th of April, these people, so when you have Venus in the 1st house, for instance, or an ascendant in Aries, be careful to do an operation between this time when the Venus goes retrograde. Why? Because if you start an operation when the Venus goes retrograde, a new thing starting, so actually it's a bit the same with the relationships. Let's say you meet someone also during this period. It can be that when Venus goes direct again on the 16th, that you're gonna change your mind. You're, in other words, if you do the operation on your appearance between the 4th of March and the 16th of April, you might not like the outcome, you know, after the 16th of April when it goes direct. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So you see how astrology, how rather complex it is, and that's why you know, I have a bit of a second thought with doing monthlies and horoscopes and all of that, because it confuses people more than it helps them. So I hope this was helpful. I wish you all the best with the Venus retrograde, and I hope for most of you it will be a deepening of love. But also trust that when a relationship ends, when it's already bad, it's going to end. You know, when it's already bad, it's going to end. Or it's indeed one of those times, especially when you have it in the 7th house. You know, it's because it's no longer, how would I say, you have to go up a level. You cannot just go for the low quality Venus related relationships. That's basically it. I hope it was helpful. If you want a reading with me, just get in touch. This was my take here on the Venus retrograde, and I'm now going to try to stop here everything, screen sharing. All the best with the Venus retrograde. Bye bye.